When I was a beginner, I thought if I learned Python, I would be able to score my dream job. And to an extent, I was right. But I would have been able to accelerate getting my first job if I just did this one thing. Now, let's think of software design as a whole to lay a foundation to doing this one exact thing. Now, software has a front end and a back end. The front end is what a user will interact with. It's going to be the user experience and the user interface. It's going to consist of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is the templating language, so it's pretty easy to learn and it just kind of lays out the structure of the page. The CSS is what changes colors and makes the application somewhat beautiful, while JavaScript is what makes the application a little bit more dynamic and allows you to be able to call the backend portion. Now, a great thing about front end is you don't have to recreate the wheel, right? There's a lot of libraries and frameworks that allow you to be able to use CSS and JavaScript very easily within your application. So think of like a Bootstrap 5. I will leave that in the link below, but if you learn Bootstrap, you can use just Bootstrap and be able to create a wonderful application that has great user interface and user experience. And all you have to do is create the HTML, use Bootstrap for the CSS and JavaScript, and boom, you have a UI front-end application that a lot of people can use. And it's going to be responsive, which makes it work both on a mobile device and on a desktop computer. Now, on the back-end side of things, well, you're gonna wanna learn a programming language like Python. And that is really where you're gonna wanna learn a framework with just a bigger library. So think of like a fast API library that allows you to be able to communicate with the front end. So when the front end says, hey, I want this user's data, the back end is able to call it from a database using SQL and return that data back to the front end. Now that we have our front end, our back end, and our database, let's go ahead and just package that application up and deploy it on the cloud for other people to be able to use using something like AWS. That will make your application live for the world to use. And this cycles back to the one thing that you can do to really help you get your first programming job, and which would have helped me tremendously, is to build projects. Now, you're gonna hear this a lot from people that the best way to learn is to build projects, and it really is. I know when I was learning how to code, I would start by learning a backend language. So I started with learning Java, and I was diving into Java, trying to learn Java, learning data structures, algorithms, because you always hear about these algorithm tests that are from the big tech companies like Google and Facebook. But in reality, most companies just want someone that is able to build projects, build products that the world can use. And to be able to build like web applications, you need a front end, a back end, and a database. And being able to connect all of those and then deploy it live for the world to use, that'll put you ahead of 95% of people that are trying to become software engineers. There are so many people that are only front-end devs or only back-end devs that don't understand the full architecture of how an application works. And once you start there, like let's say you're learning how to code and then you build your own project, you go through all of that and you ship it live, you've hit almost every area of what an application is. You literally hit the front end, back end, database, packaged it up, deployed it live for the world to use, and boom, now you have a simple application potentially, but it's going to be live for the world to use. Now, if you're interested at all on how to build these applications, I have a ton of videos that walk you step by step on how to build these applications. You can check those out in the link below. But to recap, if you want to get your first coding job, you absolutely need to build real world projects.